What's good, YouTube? It's jazzlovesmma here. It's been a while since I made a video, but here is my tier list of the most underrated fighters that I believe are in the UFC. Um, as you can see here, I have the tier list. Oh, overrated, underrated, depends on the week, properly rated, and forgotten about. The forgotten tier is you're so underrated, people literally forget about you. And let's get started with Moicano. He's been underrated for a while. You know, he was an underdog coming into the Jalen Turner fight. He was underrated in the BSD fight. He was. Oh, what did he fight Islam right after? I think he was. And then he kind of got overrated in the youth fight, and then he got underrated again. And I'm gonna say he's pretty underrated. Um, it's like it depends. I feel like he could go in depends, but he's just been underrated in like most of his last fights, and then the Dairy youth fight just sank it all. So yeah, he knocked him down at the end of round one. I felt like he should have gotten the finish there. I'll put him in underrated. Perez DM, he's definitely an underrated prospect in 155. He's fighting Tom Nolan. I should have made a video about that. Tom Nolan, the Apex. I think I can. I still can. Still some fight announcements I'm being made on that card. And yeah, very underrated. Has some sneaky good wins. Sadikov is a good win, being able to finish him. Matt Frivola, everybody kind of finishes Matt Frivola if you're good. And yeah, he's definitely underrated. He's not talked about a lot. And he's almost forgotten. He's like, I feel like people almost forget about him. I definitely did. I forgot he was like top 15. I feel like he's kind of been cooked out of the top 15. And let's talk about another 150. Dude, I have a lot of 155ers. Cameron is definitely underrated. Because he's not super hyped up for how good he is. I played against him in stupid fights, like the Klein and Rubovic's fights, but that was kind of pure bias. But then he's just underrated. I don't know. It feels like even going into his fights, he's not really hyped up. He has his fans, especially on Twitter. He has his fans that like him and definitely hype him up. But it feels bad. Like he's a dark horse in the division. So yeah, I'm gonna put Gamma on the underrated tier. I want to move on from underrated. Let's put somebody in overrated. Patty was definitely overrated. Patty was definitely overrated. He kind of still is. But not super overrated anymore because I feel like people don't think that he's complete trash. I do think he probably loses to Mike. I could see Patty losing to all three of these guys. And if I have any other 155ers on this tier list, I don't think so. I do. Definitely think that he's a bit overrated. But I feel like now he is a little underrated, but I'm still gonna keep him on overrated tier. If he's like, people are saying that he's gonna be Max Holloway because Max Holloway got dominated by Charles Oliveira, who has some of the best wrestling recently that we've seen. So yeah, I'm gonna put Patty the Batty in overrated tier. I'm gonna put Sean. Dude, it feels like Sean Brady gets forgotten about. I know he has a fight coming up on 328, but Sean Brady's still pretty underrated. He was really underrated going into the Leon Edwards fight. I definitely kind of underrated him. It was 50-50 on that fight, but I had no idea who was going to win that. And yeah, he was a little overrated going into the Morales fight. I feel like a lot of people thought that he was going to sub him, but even when I was going into that fight, I was like, oh man, he could just get chinned. He pulled over the two knee sleeves. Now, going into the, honestly, depends on the fucking week. Yeah, I'm going to move him on. It's like he's like being underrated, even though I think he should be the favorite, and I think he is. It's like some people are like, oh, Buckley's just gonna chin him, which was definitely one of my thoughts going into that fight. So yeah, I'm gonna put Sean Brady on this tier. Then a couple flyweight unks. Tim Elliott is definitely super underrated. He's crafty, dude. He's a crafty little vet. I don't know how else to describe him. I definitely think that he's underrated. I feel like I'm talking about, but he's pretty underrated. He's always been that top 14 guy. So yeah. Moving on to Alex Perez. Ooh, I don't know where to put Alex Perez. I want to put him in underrated, but I think it feels like His performance with Charles Johnson literally got forgotten about. If that makes sense. Like, it feels like he got completely forgotten about after that performance, and he's been riddled with injuries. He has some nasty knockouts. The Nicola fight was nasty. And yeah, I was gonna make a whole video about Alex Perez and him being underrated, but I didn't know how to make like a full-fledged video about that. So yeah, he's gonna be in the forgotten tier. He's still forgotten about right now. I don't know who he should fight. Thinking about the rankings, he deserves a good good fight. I think he's like a win one lose one streak right now. But yeah, I assume Live could have been on this list to be honest, but I think I probably would have put him in the same forgotten tier. JDM, I don't know where to put him. I think it depends on the week. He was very underrated going into the Burns fight, into the Bilal fight. I think he was going to be underrated into the Lee fight as well. But then he got overrated into the Islam fight. I overrated him. I thought his wrestling defense was better than it was. But now he's underrated again. People are saying Carlos Prazo is just going to chip him. Like he's not good at all. Like JDM can't fight. So I'm going to put him in depends on the week. Because I felt like he was doubted so much in his career and super hyped up randomly. Not randomly, it was clearly because of the Islam haters and stuff, but yeah. He's kind of in the same position as Sean Brady, in my opinion. If this wants to go away. No, this doesn't want to go. Look. Okay, I'm going to go move on. Amosov. Amosov is a dude who's literally he just got ranked 15. And sorry, that is so much. That just really distracting me. Amosov got ranked 15 and still feels like he's forgotten about. No one's talking about that. People are more talking about the fact that Kobe got kicked out than the fact that, which obviously makes sense, right? Kobe's a big name, but Amosov just got ranked. He's 1-0 in the UFC. He got ranked. He's a good prospect. Sub Neil Magny easily. He's fighting Joel Alvarez. Here's a chance he just subs him or just dominates him on the ground. He's a forgotten about prospect. He's not like Alex Perez, who's been in the UFC for ages now, and has like forgotten about performances. He just got here. He's already forgotten about. So I definitely think he's in the forgotten tier. Yeah. I'm going to put Farid Basharat's another guy who's forgotten about. Before making this video, I made a tweet asking people who they think should have been in this video. And Basharat someone told me Basharat. Shout out Shahir, I think, or Farid. Faraz. Oof. I'm sorry for messing with your name. You're my mutual on Twitter. I love you, bud. But yeah, he told me Basharat. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot he was even ranked number like 14, 15. He definitely should be here. He's very underrated. Had a close fight with Matsumoto, but Matsumoto's decent. He makes close fights with people. He's like one of those guys who he makes close fights with people he shouldn't in both realms, if you know what I'm saying. Like, he makes close fights out of like Rob Font on short notice. He makes very close fights with Brad Katona. Like, two different spectrums of makes it close with. And then he makes it close with Basharat. And Basharat's still very good. He's much better than Javid. So he's definitely in the forgotten tier. I'm going to rank. I feel like, I'm going to say. I'll say Arnold Allen and Milk was the cost of like two people are fighting each other. I feel like they're both underrated. It feels like Milk was also was kind of underrated going to the Danny Ige fight. He's been pretty underrated because of some of the performances he had, but maybe I'll move him down depending on the opinion of him coming into the Arnold Allen fight. But Arnold Allen's still very underrated as well. Maybe I should put him in properly. It was just the way people were talking about him. He was like, he's gonna school John Silva. It's like he was probably gonna do it for a little bit. Then, in my opinion, John Silva was gonna catch him. It didn't go off that way. John Silva was able to decision him, but I feel like they're both still pretty underrated for what they've done. Maybe I should put depends on the week. I don't know. Arnold Allen gets a little overrated sometimes. And some of the I love Arnold Allen, by the way, but some of his fans, the way they hype him up is like he has 3 big losses in the UFC. Evloev, um, and Max Holloway. So maybe I don't know. Maybe it's not. I'll put him. I'll put him here. I'll put him underrated too. I feel like they're both underrated. Arnold Atkins looks really good in performances he loses in. He's kind of like how I just described Matsumoto. He makes it close with people, like with everyone. It's not really a good look. Like he made it really close with Gika Chikadze, who in hindsight he shouldn't have made it close with. So, but he's still pretty underrated, I'd say. And Michael Lee Costa was like an underrated prospect on the come up. Speaking of another 145er, I think he's even though I know he's the favorite, it feels like he's very underrated coming into this fight. With Aljamain Sterling, who honestly he could have been on this streak too. And yeah, he has a rough first round finish over John Shannon, which was a weird, uneventful submission, but he still did it. But yeah, he definitely deserves to be here. Very talented. He was very hyped up. I think if he wouldn't have had that boring fight with Calvin Kattar, he wouldn't be underrated. I think he'd still be hyped up. People still talk about him. He's the dude that made it close with Ilya Taporia, but he should be having more hype on him. Moving on. Ankle hype, it depends on the week. Because I feel like people are like, oh, he's going to destroy the light heavyweight divisions. Like, is he? But then he was very underrated going into the Axe Pereira fight. And then he beat him 3 times. Then he beat Pereira in the first fight. And then he lost the second one, and people started not rating him. So I definitely think it really depends on the week type of thing. Depends on what fights he's having and stuff. Very much like these two. Like, oh, he's going to destroy Spear in the rematch now, and then he doesn't. And then people are like, oh, does this dude even win another fight? But they see Yuri lose, and he's like, oh, this dude's going to sweep up the whole division. So definitely depends on the week. Moving on. Ooh. I think BSD is a guy who's pretty properly rated. I think sometimes he gets underrated, but he's like in that weird middle ground where it's like he's almost depends on the week, but stylistically he's so like what's the word I'm looking for? Untechnical sometimes. It's like people know where he's at. I feel like most people know where he's at, even though he kind of sucks. I feel like if this was like last year, he definitely would have been overrated. If this was 2024, he'd be overrated. If this was like last year, he'd probably be like an underrated. These feel like who did he fight that people thought he was gonna lose to? He beat Prepolek. What did he fight? I don't remember. He mauled someone on the ground. I just can't think about it. I know he beat Dan Hooker, but Rufy. He was underrated against Rufy, but now I think he's properly rated, especially after that Dan Hooker performance. Paulo Costa. I feel like Paulo's a little underrated, but it really depends on the week. Or I feel like we know where he's at. You know, he was underrated going into the Azamat. I feel like he's gonna be depends on the week. Because I feel like some weeks he's like very hyped up. But then others like, oh, Azamat's gonna destroy him, but then he schools him. Kopylov, I feel like is the underdog. People are doubting him, beat him, school him. And yeah. So I'll put him. I feel like but I feel like we know his team. I feel like we know how good Paulo is. He's very good against southpaws and against orthodox fighters. He just kind of just sits in bed. So I think this one I put him. Strickland. It definitely depends on the week. He was underrated going to the fluffy fight. And he does what he does. Then he gets overrated in some other performances. Like the 2 DDP fights, I feel like he got a little overrated. Maybe not in the first one because he already won that one. But I don't know. I'll put him on depends on the week. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes Strickland gets very underrated, especially coming into this contest fight. He may just get subbed in one round, but I still think it just depends on the week. And someone else who is like that is Charles Johnson. Very underrated some weeks, but then people talk about him like he is a world beater. He beat Joshua Van, he beat Kavanaugh, but I feel like people talk about him way higher than he is. lost to Alex Perez, and I'm not gonna like Rob Bruno Silva, so I'll put him in depends on the week. Mario Batista is 100% underrated. Was underrated going to some of his fights, especially the Aldo one. He was very under. Even though he lost it, he was very underrated going to the Omar fight. I think he's gonna be a little underrated going to the Corey fight. Even though I might pick him, I don't think I'm underrating him there, but I feel like he's a little underrated going to the Venetian Oliver fight as well. Maybe that was just my perspective, but I knew Batista was gonna win. I don't know why I picked up Oliver in that fight. So yeah, I still think he's very underrated. Imavov is incredibly underrated, dude. He should be fighting for the belt right now, but he's not. He should be fighting DTP right now. We're probably just waiting for that to be announced. So Imavov is very underrated. It's almost like he's forgotten about sometimes. It's because he doesn't really talk like other competitors speaks. But yeah, I'll put Imavov in underrated here. And yeah, 5 fighters left. Ooh. I feel like Malzer is definitely underrated. I feel like hmm, I want to put him in depends on the week, but I feel like he's never super overrated. Like he looked really good against Aljo. I don't feel like he was underrated even coming out. Like, he's like, oh, Aljo won that fight. And I don't think so. I don't think he beat. I think Arnold Allen beat him, but that doesn't mean that he's overrated. He had a decent performance against LeBron too. I feel like he's underrated. I think he's gonna be very underrated going to the Volk fight. I feel like people are just gonna assume Volk destroys him, but I think he'll be able to make it a little bit closer than people think. I'll put him in underrated here. Ozdemir is someone who I think is forgotten about completely. He has good performances. He did what Dominic Reyes couldn't. He knocked out Johnny Walker in a round. Knocked out Manyfield easily in a round. He has a submission win over Guskov. That's a very well aging win. So he's a top contender that kind of gets forgotten about. He has heavy hands. He is pretty decent technically. And he lost. He made a very close fight with Over, man. So Ozdemir is really underrated. He's forgotten. Like he hasn't fought since the Mayfield before he took 0 damage. I feel like he should be getting a fight book soon, especially with how shit the division is right now. I'm not just talking about Ober, just how many guys are coming off wins. It should be easy for him to get a big fight coming up. Bonfim is really underrated. I know he kind of robbed Wonderboy, but even before that, it feels like he was very underrated. Maybe I should put him on Depends on the week. But I don't know, was he even really? I feel like he was pretty hyped up going into the Wonderboy fight, but then he robbed him. But people were like really doubting him. People doubted him in the Ronnie Brown fight. He fucking chinned him. And I think he's going to get underrated in the Bilal fight. I might pick him to beat Bilal, to be honest. I might pick Bilal, Bonfim. Sorry, John P, if you're watching this. And shout out to my late mutual friend, lover, Johnny Penis. Spoke about Bilal. It made me think of him. So yeah. Bonfim's definitely underrated. He's very underrated dude in the rankings. Who I think he has a good shot of being a top contender. Jan Blachowicz depends on the week. I feel like it's gonna be a little bit crazy, but I feel like sometimes Jan fans very much overrate him. He does have really close fights with people, but it's like the way they describe those losses are like, okay, I do think he lost to Axberger. I do think he lost to Oberg, and I wasn't mad at those decisions. But people act like they're like overblown. The Guskov fight was a very clear draw. He clearly won rounds 1 and 3. Was a Guskov got 10-8. He literally dominated him after knocking him down on the ground. So I think it depends on the week, but he's still pretty underrated. I feel like going to his other fights, he's gonna be underrated, especially because of the injury. But I'm not saying it depends on the week, because sometimes Jan Blachowicz fans very much overrate him. Last guy on the ranking, David Martinez. He's kind of forgotten about. Dude, I look like this dude. the blockhead. He has the SpongeBob build too. He's like an angry Mexican version of me. It feels like David Ortiz gets forgotten about. He beat Ronfont short notice. So that was a crazy upset for me. Maybe not all divided, but it was just crazy to see. And then he beats Cheeto over 2 rounds, and then has that trick at round 3. But that's just mainly because Cheeto sucks. So I feel like he's pretty forgotten about. He's pretty underrated. No one really talks about David Martinez after that fight. He's kind of vanished out of people's minds. So angry little SpongeBob Bill gang, you're gonna be in the forgotten here. This was my underrated fighters tier list. Let me know who would you guys put in this video. I feel like there's a lot of people I missed. Sergey Spivak is a pretty underrated dude. Waldo has been pretty underrated in some of his fights. Yeah, I know those 2 guys fought, so that's pretty weird. But yeah, most of the guys deserve to be in this tier. And there's probably a whole bunch of other guys. I saw people mention Minocap. I would probably put him in depends on the week. So yeah, a whole bunch of guys I probably forgot. Let me know in the comments. Do you guys agree with this tier list? If not, let me know. Like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video. I'll have predictions of tomorrow. Peace.